The Soviet Union was an enormous country that produced equally large-scale machinery, impressive not only in reliability and originality, but in some cases, sheer scale. Indeed, nearly every major automaker at some point ventured into a one-of-a-kind, large-scale project. And in this video, you'll discover 10 of the most fascinating giant vehicles from the Soviet era, machines that continue to amaze even today. MAZ 7907, an experimental chassis developed by the Minsk automobile plant, designed to serve as the launch platform for a mobile ground-based intercontinental missile system capable of striking any point on the globe. The project was initiated in March 1983, in the thick of the Cold War. The mobile missile system received the official designation Salina II and the unofficial nickname Neshigo. The chassis was built on a backbone frame centered around a transmission tube housing a drive shaft, to which all other components and assemblies were mounted. The 12-axle drivetrain featured 24 electric motors powered by a generator unit based on a 1,250 horsepower gas turbine engine originally used in tanks. To improve maneuverability, 4 front and 4 rear axles were steerable, allowing the 28-meter-long chassis to turn within a radius of just 27 meters. The tractor's curb weight was 66 tons, its payload capacity 150 tons, and top speed 25 kilometers per hour. Overall dimensions were imposing: length 28 meters, width 4 meters, height 4.4 meters. Although the MAZ 7907 passed field trials successfully, it was never adopted into service. 2 prototypes are still preserved at the MAZ test range. NAMI 076 Yermak was a 3-axle heavyweight vehicle with a 6x6 wheel configuration and a payload capacity of 25 tons. It was developed in 1963 by the NAMI Institute, with chief designer Rodionov and lead engineer Karakanazka heading the project. The machine blended a military-grade chassis with the functionality of a heavy-duty tractor. It featured a traditional layout with a twin rear bogie, large single tires, and a short cab mounted ahead of the main frame. Power came from a robust 8-cylinder YMZ 238 diesel engine producing 300 horsepower, paired with a 3-speed hydromechanical transmission. The vehicle's architecture also included a 2-stage transfer case with a lockable differential. Additional systems included hypoid final drives, hydraulic power steering, and an automatic tire pressure regulation system. The Yermak was truly massive, nearly 11 meters in length, 3 meters wide, and roughly 3 meters tall. Its curb weight stood at 21 tons, with a gross weight of 47 tons. It reached a top speed of 65 kilometers per hour and proved capable of conquering snow drifts up to 1.5 meters deep during testing. However, from the outset, the vehicle's true role remained ambiguous. It was being tailored for both the frozen north and the scorching south. Its enormous dimensions and undefined purpose rendered it unsuitable for military deployment. To address this, NAMI's leadership conducted a survey among potential stakeholders, which revealed keen interest from the forestry industry. After targeted refinements, Soviet leadership greenlit production at the Mogilev automobile plant. By 1970, the first 25-ton MAZ 7411 rolled off the assembly line, incorporating many of NAMI's original design solutions. Bell AZ 75501, the largest mining dump truck ever built in the Soviet Union, was produced as a single prototype in 1991 by the Belarusian automobile plant. Its foundation was an articulated frame with a hydraulic steering mechanism. 2 180mm hydraulic cylinders enabled the front section, axle, diesel engine, cab, to pivot up to 30 degrees relative to the rear section, which housed the cargo bed. This design allowed for a turning radius of just 16.5 meters, measured at the front wheel path. All wheels were dual motor wheels, and the suspension system was hydropneumatic. The power plant was a monstrous 12-cylinder locomotive diesel engine with a 165-liter displacement, delivering 3,150 horsepower. Electrical power was generated by a 3-phase synchronous AC generator and then converted into DC via a diode rectifier for the traction motors. The cab was a 2-seater, perched 4.4 meters above ground level, equipped with a heater, air conditioner, radio, storage cabinet, and a stereo. Its telemetry system featured 2 rear-view cameras with live feed displayed inside the cabin. The truck boasted a payload capacity of 280 tons. It was shipped disassembled to the Nariungri coal mine for trials, which it passed successfully. However, mass production was never launched. Around the year 2000, the machine was dismantled, most likely scrapped. TS-3 was the world's first mobile nuclear power station mounted on a tracked chassis, developed in 1960 based on the heavy T-10 tank. Engineers Yuri Sergeyev and Dmitry Brodier envisioned a self-propelled off-road platform capable of supplying electricity to military and civilian facilities in remote regions of the far north and Siberia. The complex consisted of 4 self-propelled chassis. The first housed the nuclear reactor and its servicing systems. The second carried steam generators, a volume compensator, and circulation pumps. The third featured the turbogenerator. The fourth served as the central control station. Each unit had widened track belts and reinforced rollers, driven by a 750 horsepower diesel engine. The station had a power output of up to 1.5 megawatts and could operate autonomously for up to 250 days without fuel replacement. It required no external infrastructure for deployment. Despite 5 years of successful testing, the project was terminated by 1965. The equipment was mothballed, but in the 1980s the installation was shipped to Kamchatka to support a steam power station based on the Mutnovskoye geothermal field. However, due to design complications with the turbine system, the plan was never realized. In the early 2000s, the station was dismantled. TS-3 was the world's first mobile nuclear power station mounted on a tracked chassis, developed in 1960 based on the heavy T-10 tank. Engineers Yuri Sergeyev and Dmitry Brodier envisioned a self-propelled off-road platform capable of supplying electricity to military and civilian facilities in remote regions of the far north and Siberia. The complex consisted of 4 self-propelled chassis. The first housed the nuclear reactor and its servicing systems. The second carried steam generators, a volume compensator, and circulation pumps. The third featured the turbogenerator. The fourth served as the central control station. Each unit had widened track belts and reinforced rollers, driven by a 750 horsepower diesel engine. The station had a power output of up to 1.5 megawatts and could operate autonomously for up to 250 days without fuel replacement. It required no external infrastructure for deployment. Despite 5 years of successful testing, the project was terminated by 1965. The equipment was mothballed, but in the 1980s the installation was shipped to Kamchatka to support a steam power station based on the Mutnovskoye geothermal field. However, due to design complications with the turbine system, the plan was never realized. In the early 2000s, the station was dismantled. NAMI 0127, developed in the late 1970s, was an articulated road train with an 8x8 wheel configuration intended to transport gas pipelines into remote regions. Steering was accomplished by articulation of the frame itself. There were no steering wheels. The design utilized 2 balanced bogies borrowed from the Ural 375D and a 240 horsepower YMZ 238 engine. One prototype was fitted with arched tires, while the other used pneumatic tracks. During construction of the gas pipeline in Uzbekistan and Turkmenistan, the convoy faced challenges such as climbing dunes up to 100 meters tall with gradients of 14 degrees, often struggling with sand traction and unable to overcome certain terrain obstacles. Despite these difficulties, the project received positive feedback. The Ministry of the Gas Industry proposed that the Ministry of Oil Production begin serial manufacturing, but the initiative was never pursued. NAMI 0127 remained an experimental development. ZL E167 was an experimental 6x6 off-road vehicle developed in 1963, designed to transport cargo weighing over 3.5 tons, as well as work crews and military units to remote areas of Siberia. Its fiberglass cab enhanced water fording capability and housed 4 seats, with the driver's seat equipped with a position adjustment mechanism. While overall comfort was modest, the dual heating system, based on the engine's thermoliquid cooling circuit and an auxiliary aluminum wood-burning stove in the rear, ensured that neither driver nor passengers froze. The vehicle was powered by 2 ZL 375 gasoline engines, each delivering 180 horsepower to its respective side, through hydrodynamic transmissions. The running gear echoed previous designs, a rigidly mounted central axle with independently suspended first and third axles utilizing transverse control arms. Steering encompassed both front and rear pairs of axles, supported by 2 hydraulic boosters. Field testing began in January 1963 on virgin soil near Moscow and continued for 2 years. In 1965, the prototype was deployed for pipeline construction in Siberia. Despite successful trials, mass production never materialized as government interest waned. MAZ 7922 was an experimental 8-axle chassis developed in 1987 based on the MAZ 7917 platform. Instead of a central non-driven axle, it featured a dual-axle powered bogie. The vehicle was designed to carry a new generation domestic missile system known at the time as Universal, later renamed Topol-M. The prototype was unveiled 3 years later. Unlike its predecessors, the chassis had steerable wheels on the first 3 and last 3 axles, greatly improving the maneuverability of the 20-meter-long transporter. Key design features included a reinforced, composite welded frame, single wide-profile tires mounted on independent hydropneumatic suspension, onboard tire pressure control system, dual fiberglass cabins for operational flexibility. Power came from a 25.9-liter YMZ diesel engine delivering 780 horsepower, paired with a 4-speed hydromechanical transmission and dual reverse gears. Curb weight was 39 tons, with a range of up to 400 kilometers. After factory trials, the platform was deemed unnecessary by the client. In 1995, an upgraded version was introduced under the designation MAZ 79221. ZL-135SH was an experimental transitional transporter developed in 1967 to deliver rocket carriers from the manufacturing plant to the Baikonur Cosmodrome. A prototype chassis section was assembled on July 28 of that year. The foundation of the vehicle was a massive welded frame. A modified fiberglass cab from the ZIL-135 was mounted on the front overhang. The rear cargo platform featured tall wooden side panels and 2 fuel tanks, resting on a powered axle taken from the ZL-130 tractor truck. At mid-frame sat a 180 horsepower ZL-375 engine, driving a 120 kilowatts DC generator to power electric motors. A second identical engine was installed at the rear, linked to a mechanical gearbox and transfer case from the ZL-157K, serving as a backup drive for the rear axle. The transporter could rotate around its own axis thanks to landing gear elements inspired by the IL-18 aircraft chassis. The turning radius at the outer wheel was a mere 5.1 meters. Each of the 4 front wheel hubs housed a 15 kilowatts electric motor. Field trials in June 1967 demonstrated excellent off-road capability, agility, and controllability. Nevertheless, the concept of ground-based rocket delivery through steppe terrain was abandoned, and the project was not pursued further. MAZ 541 was a Soviet airfield tug produced by the Minsk automobile plant, with only 3 units built starting in 1956. It earned its spot in this ranking for one simple reason. No other country in the world ever created an aircraft tug quite like it, resembling a colossal passenger sedan in appearance. The MAZ 541 was engineered to sit as low as possible, allowing it to approach aircraft landing gear struts without contacting the fuselage. Its dimensions were dramatic: 7.8 meters in length, 3.4 meters wide, and 2.8 meters tall. It featured all-wheel drive with a disengageable front axle. The front and rear wheels were of different diameters. The front wheels came from the IZ-214 truck, while the rear were dual tires borrowed from the MAZ-525 quarry dump truck. This hybrid setup maximized traction with concrete airfield surfaces, and to enhance grip further, the vehicle's weight was increased to 28 tons. Its powerhouse was the 525 horsepower D12 diesel engine, with a fuel consumption of roughly 45 liters per hour, equivalent to a staggering 130 liters per 100 kilometers. The Ministry of the Aviation Industry originally ordered 13 units, and 3 prototypes were handed over for trial operation in the late 1950s. These remained in service until 1970. However, as newer aircraft models grew heavier, the MAZ 541 could no longer meet airfield service requirements. Ultimately, the remaining 10 units were never built.